What is going on YouTube? Dr. Way here, and these videos I'm about to do, the next couple of videos that I'm going to do, I'm taking a break from the commander guides, and I want to talk more about with my alliance, the general direction that you want your account to go as you're moving towards T5. um, T5 is an extremely important milestone, but I would like to make the argument that you want to have a very well balanced account. So a lot of people focus in on one aspect of your account, which might be the troops. Some people might focus on the building. Some people might focus on the tech to get to T5. But truth be told, all of those things, including commanders and gear, all work together to give you a more well-rounded account so you can be effective on the battlefield. And each thing has its kind of advantages and disadvantages to focus on. And that's the purpose of this series that I'm going to be creating, The Road to T5, so to speak, which has less to do with actually getting to T5 and more to do with talking about each aspect and how it plays a part in a T5 account, right? That's what I want to focus on. This first part, which is going to be dedicated to troops, actually probably has the least to do with getting to T5, but the thinking and strategy involved with troops and troop training and how you manage them will translate very well once you get T5. So especially when it comes to like winning events, T5 is like how you really do win Mighty Governor. That's the key, T5, right? And you need a lot of T4 so you can upgrade to T5. So there you go. For if that was even the only reason, it would still be worth the video time. So the biggest piece of advice that I can give, and you can probably peep this, is that like I can train up to 1,600 troops at one time, but I strategically am training 775 because that's about 12 hours worth of troops, right? For my training speed. So with that being said, right, I'm strategically timing this to um, be done around the same time that Guardians are. So the next time it's time for me to queue up again, I may or may not be able to get benefit from uh, the rune buff if there is a training speed. That's how I would do it. Now, sometimes you might not be able to time it exactly when that is. So just choose times that work for you. It actually is possible, right, for you to just, I think, train up like, I think it's like for my training speed, like around 15 or 1600, maybe slightly less, depending on your training speed. And you can just do your training once a day, right? You can, right at reset or a little bit after reset, you can have it where you train up a day's worth of troops and 23 hours and 30 minutes later or a full 24 hours later, whatever time you decide is right for you, you just collect them. And that's honestly the best way to do it, right? Is to um, train at strategic times when you know you're going to be on, from the end when you know you're going to be on. That way you get the 24-hour training time. The reason why that's so important is that to get a full march with 65% training speed, right, with an army expansion, so 250,000 troops, right, it takes 140 days, right? And you losing 8 hours every day makes that just so much more, right? Then it's insane how much more time you'll end up uh, not being utilized, because how long it takes you to get that full march without speed ups, because you're not utilizing a full time. If you don't get anything else from this video, at least do that. That is one of the major pieces to the puzzle, is not wasting the time that you do have, right? The next thing is using speed ups at the right time. And you have to find a sweet spot with your own account, depending on what you think you can win and what you can't win. So to give you an example, Lord of War, right, 2-day event, maybe you want to at least get the 83,000, right? I've actually gotten this far without, you know, using any speed ups, right? So boom, there you go. But I would look here. The whole point of this, maybe you just want the rewards, the base rewards, which is a valid argument. Maybe that's all you go for, especially if you're free to play. Maybe that's all you go for. But if you are a medium or high spender, I like to wait a day and then kind of look, right? So I need this amount of power of I need this amount of power of troops trained, and I would do the conversion and be like, well, okay, eyeballing it, that's about I would need about 100,000 troops, like 400k, 400,000, 400,000 power, so 100k troops to about get to where he is, right? 100k troops is like half of an army. I'm looking at like somewhere around the range of 75 days of speed ups. Just eyeballing it, that ain't the exact number. But like, do I want to do that right now? And is that worth this? Or am I better off doing something else? So that's how I would go about it, right? For these types of events. But there's other ones where you just have to train up T5 troops, right? I mean, T2 troops, right? And then you can get the full benefit of getting all of those speed ups without using any of them. I wish I could show you. They're not on this, not even on here anymore. Next week, like I think it's called, like one of them is Warpath and the other one is, damn, what's the other one called? I know it's another one. It's Mighty Army, Warpath, and another one, but I'm forgetting the name of it. Those events where you got to train up 10,000 troops or 2,000 in each one. Just do T2, right? T2 troops, upgrade them later, and boom, you get all of those speed ups. And I think for Warpath or whichever one gives you the majority of the speed ups, I think it's like 4 days of training speed ups total and a little bit of extra of um the universals. It really does add up, and it comes every 2 weeks, right? So essentially that's shortening the amount of time that it takes to get your full marches, right, and beyond. Okay, key. Now the next key is, if you are going to be using speed ups and you see it come across the screen a lot, you want to get as much training speed as possible when you're using speed ups. So this dude just got the Duke, for example, right? Let's go over here so I can show you the kingdom buffs. Show you what this looks like. So you can get this powerful buff, right? Everybody wants the Duke, 10% training speed, right? And when the more training speed you have, the less speeders you're using. So Duke, just ask for it, right? That's one thing you can get. Then once you get Duke, usually there's a buff, right? 10%, 15%. And because you're doing this during an event, hopefully there's a buff. It may or may not be at the Lost Temple, or maybe you have to go to one of your shrines, right? That are level 3 shrines. It might have a buff. It's literally that important to go travel, get the Guardians, right? And if I was being a better PvE manager, I would actually Guardian times. I'm waiting on everybody to migrate, but it's somewhere down here. Here, right? Hit this Guardian. Well, if you do 3, there's going to be a training speed buff. Statistically speaking, you're going to get one. And right, maybe it's just a 7%, but that still adds up. And then you go and get the kingdom buff, right? If they pop the kingdom buff, if there's Mighty Governor, it's the first day of Mighty Governor, it wouldn't even make sense for him not to pop the buff, right? And because or during a major training event, it would just make 100% sense, right? So all of those things working together, you can quite easily get anywhere from 65 to 75% training speed like that, right? I'm at 45% myself, just normally any old regular day. Kingdom buff 10%, let's just say Room 10%, not even the 15. Title buff, Duke, another 10%. 75% training speed, right? And the Duke is kind of weird because you might not have the Duke as long as you need to get all your training done, and that's kind of where the extenders come in, right? So if you want, there's two ways to kind of get a lot of benefit from extenders. And extenders, what I mean are like the troop reserves. Might be in other, maybe. I'm not really sure where they're at. Boost, yeah. So you can get reserves by a few free to play. The easiest way is just to spend the big bucks on the War Machine bundle, or I think it's Call of the Ancients have them as well. And you can pop as many of these as you want. And the next time you train troops, you'll train up 2,200. So you can 22,000. So you can train up a lot of troops really quickly, way faster, and more troops benefit from the reduced speed up cost. Because you ain't gonna be able to have that Duke forever. But let's say you didn't care too much about that, and you wanted to use the reserves in a more strategic manner, where you queued up, 3 extenders for your major troop types, like a week ahead in advance of Mighty Governor, and then you then you had it where on that first day, Mighty Governor, you speed up the rest, or it literally can time it where it just would finish on that Mighty Governor day. You can get a lot of points that way. And if you're strategic with your reserves in that way, and you don't care about saving more speed ups on the back end, using when you're have the Duke buff, which is a valid argument to make. If you like, especially if you're like a bigger spender, then or you're trying to win MGE, that makes sense to me. I think that covers the runes. The last thing that I will say is that everybody, and I really do mean everybody, needs all major fighting unit types minus siege, right? You don't necessarily do whatever you want with siege. Whatever your strategy for siege is, that's your fucking business. I'm not even talking about that. But everybody needs to have full marches of everything else. I would say when you're really fighting, you want to pop those extenders. So the 250k troops is about what you need, right? So you can see that I'm choosing to focus on these two right now, because those are the commanders that I'm focusing on. But eventually, you want to round out your account and make sure that you have a full 250k of each. And in fact, Archers is the best rally in KVK1. So if we're going by the gold best of the best standards, then there's going to be the LC YSG rally hitting stuff. You need Archers. You just do. And you need a lot of them. And you can't just stop at 250k. Like, your troops are going to die. I would say you need 500,000 of each troop type. And so like 1.5 million fighting troops. I think that's a really, really good place to be KVK1. Like, how many days of training is that? I'm about to figure it out right now. That I'm gonna do the math for you. Holy shit, that's whale status for sure. But if you could just do, that's kind of unrealistic for most people, but it is possible. Let's say you did more close to like 300k, maybe 350k each. Oh, I pulled out the calculator. Hold on, folks. Let's do this here. So we do 300,000 times 3, so 900k troops. I'm gonna divide that by so you can train about, I would say most people without any bullshit buffs and stuff like that can train 1,500 troops for each troop type pretty easily. So that's 4,500 troops total. I'm not including siege, 1,500 a day for each major troop type. So that would be 45,000 troops a day. 4,500 troops a day. And it would take 200 days to complete that. Right, 200 days. By the time KVK rolls around, it's probably like, I don't know, by the time you fight, at least, I would have to say it has to be around day 130, 120, somewhere in there, right? So 130 days, right? You need you would need what, 70 70 more days of training, but for each troop type. So you would need 200, you would have to get 210 days of speed ups. All right, and let's divide the 210 days of speed ups divided by 130, which is how many days you until the KVK, right? You would need to gain a little bit more than 1.5 days worth of speed ups every day of training, or it could be universal too if that's what you want to do. But let's just call it just training. Boom. You get about, what the fuck is it? I'm not even gonna talk about the purchasing packs because now we get into spending. But I think most of this is very doable, right? You could easily get at least to the 200K mark, which is the bare minimum of each troop type, and then take just ramping it up just a little bit farther than that, right? I'm doing the math, and for an account like mine with median spending, 300K troops for each major one doesn't even seem too bad. Not one bit. Doesn't even seem too bad at all. It's 100% doable. You just have to be strategic and get maximum benefit from training speed, and that was at 45% training speed, by the way. My model that I just did. So very reasonable. Maybe, if there's a free to play, it's going to be a lot less. I'm thinking more about them, like, okay, that's a reach for them, but it's definitely not a reach for me. All right, so those are all the things that I would do. And having these troops and thinking about like the marches, right, and having them full. When you really bring out a full march, it gives you the best chance you have of protecting your troops, so less of them are severely injured and less of them die in a flag. That's why you want to keep the rally full by reinforcing it. The rally should never drop below. If you got 2 million troops in a rally, it should never even drop below 1.8 or 1.75 million troops. It just shouldn't, because you're going to constantly keep reinforcing, and the moment it does, maybe you just cancel. Or if they ain't reinforcing it and you don't worry about it, you already putting the hurting on them. So there you go. The next video, we're going to talk about commanders, where I think your commander should be as you're progressing into a T5 account. This is the foundation to upgrading your troops to T5. See you in the next video.